Good morning, Laura.
Good morning.
Laughing because Zoom now announces at the start of a conversation that this is being recorded. So you may have heard that at home. If not, just forgive us for laughing like fools as we begin our conversation.
Yeah, at least we all know now.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, thank you. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's nice to be. I just think it's nice to be kind of shifting again in society. I've got I mean, we had a face-to-face meeting yesterday, was it? No, day before,
Yeah,
Monday,
Monday.
which was amazing because it's face to face. And yeah, today I have another one. And so I'm just really appreciating the face to face meeting. There feels like there's something shifting again and I'm not going to say it's going back to normal because that's not what's happening, but
No.
just that re-emerging, that noticing what that is. And I think part of that, which is something that I really enjoy and have, and getting really filled by it personally, but something that I also noticed this morning was how distracted I felt in my own time with God. Um, and not in a bad, I was thinking of loads of bad things, getting really anxious. Just a bit of my brain all over the place
Mm,
of different things. Maybe that's just what my brain is like this week, but I'm also just wondering as well whether that kind of temptation or pull to busyness is creeping in again,
yeah.
where my diary is fuller. And actually, for me at the moment, there's nothing in my diary that shouldn't be. So it's not that there's too much going on. It's probably more of just a pace of meeting people and having those things in. But I'm just noticing that where I'm coming from in that place feels quite rushed, quite
Yeah.
distracted in some way.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the observations I've had, that even the approach to the working day, the lived day is different, because when you're having meetings on Zoom, you can have 4 meetings back to back, and you
Yeah,
and that's manageable. But if you're meeting in person and traveling between those meetings, you couldn't. Well, if you tried to do that, you'd go absolutely bonkers,
yeah,
because you'd be zooming about all over the place, and that's when I think we don't take care of ourselves quite so well, when we're traveling
mm,
around all over the place. I've had a few meetings here, which has been really lovely, actually, to re-welcome people back into this space, to sit and
yeah,
pray with people. And I think it's the shift for me is we remember we are actually embodied human beings.
yeah,
And I don't think when we're on a online conversation we're no longer in our bodies. I think we can still feel excited or sad or hurt or engaged or bored, all of those things, by
yeah,
the company that we're in, or the meeting that we're having. So it's not that we're no longer in our bodies, but there is something about being in a physical presence with another human being that does shift
yeah,
things. But this temptation to busyness it's a big deal, isn't it? And
yeah,
it's so interesting that you said that, because in my prayer time this morning, at the moment I'm revisiting a book that I need to read every other year. It's I'll hold it up, Stephen Cottrell, currently the Archbishop of York. He writes fantastic books. This is one of his little
yeah,
ones. It's called Hit the Ground Kneeling. And the reason I have to read it every other year is because it does speak absolutely into what you're saying. Have you ever been to speed school for breaking the speed limit when you're driving?
I haven't
What? Oh
actually.
my gosh, you are an angel. Polish that halo. I go like I choose.
I go every year. I thought you were
Well,
gonna
no,
fair
you can only go every 3 years. So I've been a few times. Um, and it's like speed school every 3 years reminds you of, oh yeah, that's the reason we don't drive too
yeah,
quickly. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to everyone if my halo is so crooked now. But so I read this book every other year for the same reason, of that just being needed to be reminded of some of the core principles of just how we might live.
yeah,
And the example that he puts is just this reminder about how we might approach things, not in a rush, not to get there first, not to do things without thinking. And he gives this example of when he was 12 years old and he was on scout camp, and he witnessed something really frightening, which was a friend of his, so they were all about 12, fell out of a tree. It was a really nasty fall, and he was completely unconscious.
Gosh.
And they had no idea how serious it was. So all the scouts went running towards this boy, and others went and called the scoutmaster. And the scoutmaster walked slowly and purposefully towards the boy. And what none of the other scouts could understand is why he wasn't running, why he wasn't rushing to get to the scene. And afterwards, the scoutmaster said that there were two reasons. Firstly, because he knew he needed a few moments to weigh up the situation, because he knew his first course of action had to be the right one, particularly if it was if it had been a fatal accident. So he knew the first decision had to be the right one, so he couldn't rush, he had to take his time. And the second reason he walked was so that he wouldn't be out of breath if he needed to give the boy mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Wow.
And there's maturity, there's wisdom, and I just wonder, would I have the presence of mind to just be still for a moment to make sure, firstly, I made the right decision, and secondly, that I had everything I needed to be able to respond effectively.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing story, because I think that's really countercultural as well. I just, I don't like to put big generalizations on our society and whatever, but I hope everyone will kind of spare me this one of I think we're quite an immediate response society now, just in terms of the media that we digest, the way that the world works. Everything is so now and instant. And actually the temptation is to take that attitude into everything that we do. It's reminding me of when Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And the importance of that is that you are coming to a decision that you are fully behind, or not. But what that doesn't mean is that there isn't a discernment or a space in between when you're making that decision. So if someone's asking you to do something or whatever it is, my temptation is to go, yeah, I'll do it. It's fine. Yeah, I'm in. Whereas sometimes, and this is something that I'm always learning, is to say, can you give me a day? Can you give me just some space to think and pray about what that is? So that my yes can be yes and my no can be no. And that's something that is reminding me in this is it, how can we be in step with God within our decisions and within our diaries and within what we're doing in our days.
And the God person that we would describe as being in step with is God as Holy Spirit, because the Spirit is, as we heard on Sunday at Pentecost, the advocate, the helper, the enabler, whatever your tradition interpretation of the Bible says. But it's God coming as Spirit to enable us to continue the work of God that he's revealed in Jesus and that he calls us to do. So by being tuned into the other that isn't my own brain, which thankfully the ability for the world to turn does not rely on my ability to make it turn, but my the limits of what I might be able to discern. And also, there was a time when I needed to have a t-shirt that said, could I just say no? Because my ability to say no, very, for all sorts of reasons, wanting to please people, not wanting to let people down, wanting to be busy, all of those things. So needing to be in tune and in step with a spirit that says to a scoutmaster, right now, don't rush, pause, have breath. I mean, there are times when we do need immediate decisions.
Absolutely.
As I said to you earlier, if a building's on fire, I need somebody to say, the building's on fire, get out. Not, shall we get a flip chart and make a collaborative decision on the best course of action? Fire, out. But actually, those are few and far between. More often than not, is just having space to discern. And as you say, to either say yes or no, but to mean it.
We were also reflecting as well, which is something that I think helps me, because being in step with the spirit can feel like a bit of a thing that we say, but actually what on earth does it mean? And I think that's something that we're not going to be able to fully answer now at all. That's something that we work out in our own face of what that looks like. But we were also reminded of Chronos and Kairos, and Chronos being the world's time, chronological, that time, but Kairos being God's time. And sometimes that helps me, even if practically that's something hard to work out, but that helps me think about, how am I stepping into Kairos in this moment? So for me, I was saying earlier, that bit between meetings, and it's not been so much on Zoom because it is just Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. But when I'm driving to a meeting, I can get a bit like nervous of like, oh, who am I meeting? Where am I meeting them? Am I meeting them inside? Should I meet them outside? Those stupid questions that come into my brain. But actually, like, that is really a Chronos moment of being in the world, the rush, the whatever it is. But taking that moment to step back, to breathe, to remember that God is with me by God's Spirit, and actually enter into Kairos and think, oh, what could this meeting hold? What are you going to do, God? That's going to be really amazing. And I'm not saying I do this all the time. This is an admittance that this is something that, very much, that I try to do and work on. But I guess it's growing in an awareness for all of us to have those moments where we're slipping into the Chronos, the awareness to think, hang on, let me just take a minute and come back to a different rhythm.
I've got a friend who, between her Zoom meetings, obviously with the camera and the sound off, she puts on some real heavy metal music, stands on the sofa and does air guitar.
That is so amazing.
Because she says she has to remember the whole of her body. She has to get out of just her head. She said, nobody obviously is watching, but she said, I just throw my arms about. I play the air guitar, the music's on loud. It's one song. And she said, and after that, I'm ready again. Yeah. And that's her Kairos moment of, I'm just going to physically use every bit of my body. I'm going to let my ears hear something else. Yeah. Really creative. So yeah, and I just, you were saying at the beginning about being distracted, and I wonder if that is God giving you that distraction. That is God saying, hey, why don't this be a Kairos moment? Yeah. You've got your, I'm going to do this in my quiet time and I'm ready to do this, God, but hello. And now my thoughts are over here. And I often say to people, if you're trying to pray and other thoughts come clouding in, let those thoughts come clouding in, because that could be the exact thing that God just wants you to pay attention to. Wants you to pray about. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so true. So I'm not saying that after this I'm going to put on some loud music and air guitar. I might. I'm just queuing Spice Girls right now, everyone. So that's your go-to. Yeah, absolutely. And I just pray for all of us that we might try to find those Kairos moments over the coming week, or at least to get this idea of walking in step with the Spirit, not to rush ahead of God, but to be in tune with whatever amazing thing God has in store for us in the coming week. It's been good to talk. Absolutely. Just to say, it may well be that the Zoom call is going to announce that we've stopped recording very shortly, but you'll know about it. We'll all know. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Yeah. God bless everyone. See you later. Bye.